explain the meme, Yaku? Shall I put it in chat like?
Go for it.
just tell Yaku to check out the meme. But here we go. Anyway, here we go. Exciting time. Spawning in the bottom left position. It is the red Terran player playing for Rebellion Gaming. I'm so smart now. Give it up for the legend, the one and only ByuN.
And spawning in the top right hand corner of 2000 Atmospheres ALE, we have the blue Terran player himself representing Guangdong Freaks. It is KeeN.
KeeN light for this series.
Oh, I'm ByuN for the game.
That was the beyond-believable choke on the part. But like TvT on this map especially, 2000 Atmospheres, it is a very large map, lots of bases, but another thing is it's also quite choked up, and the more you expand, if we look at the top left quadrant and the bottom right quadrants, these areas are very open, and I feel like this, if the game goes late, will be where the game will be decided.
Yeah, I think so as well. And this is where like the styles and the dynamics of these players kind of play off each other a little bit, because if you remember, both these Terran players are pretty aggressive, especially in TvP. Like we saw KeeN against many Protoss players over the past couple of weeks, Geralt, Art, even Chance, just be so like pushy so, like with how he plays, and he's just so antsy and so keen, if you will, with his style, and we even compared him to ByuN, so it's really cool to see them both here against each other.
For sure, and both these players, when you're competing at this high of a level, even though the skill, the skill gap is it's remarkable, and you need to be very, very good and play to a certain standard. They have distinct playstyles, as you mentioned. As we see, KeeN been very known for being very good at TvT, does like his jobs, good with timings. ByuN also not afraid to throw caution to the wind and kind of take the initiative in games and kind of decide the game a bit faster than usual. But as we see here, it looks like double Reaper Hellion. I think we're going to see ByuN maybe poke the front, try to get that Hellion to scout. But exact same thing coming from KeeN as well. And with these depot roll-offs, or at least a depot roll-off for KeeN, I'm not sure how this little interaction will go like.
Yeah, as like we were talking about how similar they can be to each other, and for the time being they very much so are with their respective builds. We'll see where they start to diverge a little bit, because something that's interesting is that we do see a Cyclone already being built here for ByuN, which will help out defensively. But on the side of KeeN, I'm curious. Okay, never mind. I was like, yo, is he gonna go for a bit of a switch? Nah, he's just going for a Cyclone as well. Why not?
His build's very similar actually. We do see KeeN getting a couple more Marines, and a third gas going down a little bit faster. ByuN in the meantime looks like he's going to be going for, looks like, you're saying Banshee, Raven probably the safer choice. With these Cyclones, you probably don't see as much Banshee play as you used to. You reckon we're going to see Raven? Banshee, like I told you it's going to be.
I was going to bring up, fun fact, I was casting the other day with Asher Bro, and we actually got to see this build as well. How this kind of relies on the Terran player ByuN, in this case, of kind of distracting his opponent with his push, and as that distraction is happening, then the Banshee slips into a mineral line, and it's kind of very unexpected, and again, it could deal a lot of damage.
Certainly, and that could definitely happen with the Banshee in the way a tank defensively as well. Meanwhile, we've got a medevac and some units coming, and like, ByuN has a Cyclone. He'll have a Banshee, but if he sends it across the map, no, he's going to rally it across his units, but can it get caught by that Cyclone?
Oh, it definitely could. So ByuN has to be a little bit careful here, but we already see the lock-on a Hellion, not on the Banshee, so because of that, ByuN, he's going to be able to clean this up.
Yeah, that's
pushes
right.
away at least.
ByuN's going to be able to force KeeN back. One small advantage of having that medevac is if a unit gets locked on by one of ByuN's Cyclones, he can just pick it up and break the lock on. But KeeN looks like he's gonna just gonna be conservative, not worth risking with two Cyclones around. Maybe pick this pylon off, but that medevac just barely escaping.
Yeah, barely. That's such low HP, and I got a lot of respect here for KeeN as he will back off. He will not risk trying to dip into the main base or to stick around any longer. He will turn around. Again, ByuN has deflected all this early aggression, and now he can, chill out, transition, and, put that Banshee to good use.
That he can indeed, feeling very safe. Two Cyclones. Cyclones are a very weird unit, like, as in they're very powerful, especially in the early game TvT. That they fit this niche that is just so flexible, and so they can adapt to a lot of different defensive requirements. But as the game goes on, they kind of start to lose their, lose that adaptability as marine tank kind of air units take the fold, and tanks become dominant over the ground. So expect to see you won't see any more Cyclones usually past this stage of the game, but it looks like KeeN is going to be going for a drop, and this drop is something that Cyclones will be pretty good at holding, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone can agree with what you said about. There's a reason why Cyclones aren't typically a part of the main army in this matchup, but defensively at home, they're amazing. Whether they're defending against Banshees, defending against Ravens, or even drops like this. So, they still have their purpose, and because ByuN kept them alive from the early game, they're already here in position in the main base, waiting for any kind of drop, which is exactly what KeeN is going for.
Yeah, indeed. Pretty defensive posturing here by ByuN. KeeN, meanwhile, is just kind of rallying. I guess he knows he's got map control. He's got both watchtowers with these Reapers, so he's got a lot of vision. ByuN will, however, land his third base first. KeeN now moving on as well. And with this move out, do you see any opportunity, especially given the air makeup of both players, 3 Raven versus 2 Raven, 2 Viking, or do you think KeeN can get much done here?
I mean, it's going to be all about the positioning. Obviously, ByuN does have the air superiority with soon to be 4 Vikings, not just 2, and of course he does have the defender's advantage. They're going to be here shortly, but with a mass amount of Ravens, obviously there's a little spellcast energy, but there we go. But ByuN so on top of zoning out KeeN.
Yeah, it does look like KeeN. At the very least, he can keep tabs on ByuN's army while he secures his own base, but
yeah, he exposes his Ravens a little bit too soon there, and just like that, one of the Ravens does get picked off. We do see KeeN forced to throw down as many auto turrets as possible, but again, as a result, he did end up losing at least 1 Raven, could lose more. Oh god.
Oh yeah, and with these reinforcing Vikings will help out, but ByuN is he's going to back off, keep a Raven. He's going to take control of the skies, and we see ByuN immediately, he's going to unsiege and work to possibly push back this push by KeeN. And meanwhile, I want to say KeeN he accomplished what he kind of set out to do, which is put pressure on. But losing those Ravens things, it's not great, is it?
Well, I mean, he didn't just lose the Ravens. If you recall, he almost got his tank count reset. He only has 2 tanks compared to the 6 of ByuN. Has to be a little bit careful as he forces himself up the ramp. So KeeN is going to trade as best as possible, but he's still going to lose another tank.
That he will on this tank. There's only 1 more tank again for KeeN, holding the bridge here. I think at least 1 tank, but those tanks can't actually reach this tank that KeeN has.
Yeah, a little bit of miscontrol there, but again, ByuN, he just literally brute forces his way through. He just doesn't give a damn. Takes out another Raven. Oh my god, KeeN, what does he even have left? Looking at the units tab, he has 1 Cyclone and 1 tank to defend. If ByuN knew that, I'm sure he would try and pounce on the opportunity, but after cleaning up the army, he does back off.
Yeah, indeed. We see these SCVs kind of chilling just by the outside of that. There we go, going home now. And you could say the supplies are pretty similar. There's just kind of like a 12 difference between them, not too big. But as you said, the big kicker here is that tank count. 5, about to be 6 versus just 2 from KeeN. How can KeeN get back into this game because ByuN, it feels like he can just kind of bully KeeN and just kind of take the game where he wants it to go. So we see a 4th base on location.
Yeah, and I feel like ByuN can get away with this, and KeeN is going to try and get away with this. As he takes control of the watchtower, he does see the army coming in, so he's going to trade a little bit better here. Is the first to stim, does force ByuN all the way back, and again, it's so important for KeeN to get the space up and running, to catch back up in this game. He needs time to rebuild that tank count. You were talking about what can KeeN do in this position. I would say, you can make up for a lack of tanks with something like, air superiority and air control, but ByuN also has that as well. ByuN has just played out the early to mid game so well so far. It's insane.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. As we see now, one thing about having a higher tank count is you can more easily kind of transition into the air, and the skies is where TvT really, it's kind of like real life, right? It's like this, controlling the skies means you can control the space, which means you control the ground via proxy, I guess. We see a scan, a lot of bio confirmed, probably what you use bio, but that's a lot of reactors, and you'll probably see both players start to max out soon as their production begins to kick in. As we see ByuN, he's almost going to TY levels of SCV production. He goes up to 85, like.
Oh yeah, he's almost there, mate. A nice clean 100 is where we want to be for TY. So we'll see if he gets there. Another interesting thing is that KeeN has stopped Viking production. He's instead going for medevac. So this is another way for him to come back into this game despite losing so much early on. He can maybe try and pull apart his opponent and go for some drops, as he does have an army here on the left-hand side. It's just really difficult because of these sensor towers. There are a couple of blind spots, but he has to be careful because that's exactly where the Vikings are waiting.
Yeah, it is indeed. Even if he doesn't go for drops, he also try and get like a decent surround with a higher marine count and medevacs on if ByuN moves out. But the way things are looking, ByuN may not want to move out, as we see the depot is going to catch these marines, and ByuN's going to position accordingly to deal with them. Run by. No medevacs, does get a couple tanks, so like pretty worth it.
Oh mate, you say a couple tanks, I say 4 tanks, mate. A beautiful trade there by KeeN, catching ByuN unsieged. Only the 1 tank in the middle line was sieged, and that was a beautiful trade.
Yeah, no, for sure. Actually, that was an understatement. That was a very good trade for KeeN. If we look at the tank count now, it is 8 versus 6. So still slightly behind, but looks like ByuN now is going to be moving out. Scan to the left side. I don't know which play actually did that, but both players now are aware of each other's army and light. What is going to happen here?
I mean, suddenly the fight is going to be that much closer. Obviously, ByuN still has the massive Viking control here, but loses 1 Viking already. So KeeN is evening up the thing slowly but surely, and both players are maxing out.
They are indeed, and this is where it gets a little bit difficult. We're talking about the start of the game, pushing past through these rocks, actually putting pressure on a base. So we'd like this is the posturing from KeeN, keeping tabs on ByuN's army, and yeah, it's not too bad. KeeN just needs to play defensive until these extra starports kick in. Are we going to see Ravens or BCs like from here?
We'll see. I mean, I imagine Ravens first. Meanwhile, oh my god, once again, ByuN is a little bit on siege. We do see KeeN collapsing on this army, going for the full surround. At the same time, ByuN is going to try and surround as well, but he's going to lose all his tanks.
You know, the surround is surround. I do really like that fight there for KeeN, but now these tanks are isolated. He's barely going to be able to hold back with a couple of marines of his own, but SCV's being pulled down to hold here, Light, and KeeN, he should be able to stabilize, but that was looking dicey for a moment for both players.
That was a scary moment, mate. And ByuN, he is not done. He has re-rallied his army here. He's applying that pressure, but he has lost so much in the process. Suddenly, he lost all of his Vikings. He lost a lot of his tanks. He can't push on forward because of that.
No, he cannot, as we have a stalemate here. I want to say stalemate, but KeeN has got kind of the sky dominance here as ByuN, he's rallying across, he's adding in some medevacs, still building medevacs as we speak, and KeeN, this could maybe be the moment he can kind of push out, but with this defensive posture from ByuN, I don't know how I feel about this at all.
Yeah, pushing up a ramp is never an easy thing to do, never a good thing to do, I should say, as KeeN, he loses all of his bio, and now ByuN, suddenly the pendulum swings in his favor, and he's going to be able to almost reset the tank count of KeeN.
Yeah, well, crazy as we see both players pumping out 16 Marines at a time. They're at that point where they can take these trades, try and find an angle that they can, you know, make a small kind of advantage and leverage it to kind of put the dagger into their opponent's heart. As we see KeeN dropping some more sensor towers, going to be, I guess, kind of, you know, I don't want to say turtling up, but he's going to be being more aware of his surroundings. Meanwhile, ByuN has now decided, yep, it is my time to get my own starports, and looks like Light, we could be going quite late into this game.
Oh yeah. I mean, both players are looking to get into their Ravens or even BC production. KeeN already got Corvid reactors about to finish up as well to help out with those Ravens. But what I do love is that, I don't know if you've noticed, but again, both these players are very quick to throw caution to the wind. Like ByuN, he doesn't care about the sits tower. He just boosts on forward, sets up a siege position, and just like that, he takes that tower out.
Yeah, not only that, he got the first siege on, but this position by KeeN, wonderful Liberator kind of sitting up here, won't be able to get a tank, but at least wedges ByuN out of that position, and looks like he's going to come from a different angle. These tanks slightly lagging for KeeN, but with the planetary, look at this position on the tanks by ByuN, Wyatt.
Oh, exactly, he's always the first to see. He dives on top of the tanks, but the anti-armor missile is going to connect with the entire army of ByuN.
Oh, it does, and a lot of his moves getting cleaned up due to those Ravens, and now the Liberator back at work, and this is the advantage of having that air control, right? These Liberators, once covered by the tanks, it's so hard to kind of counteract them, and your tanks are getting a bit of a threat there as well, but it's looking like even though ByuN, he's still posturing, trying to find an angle, KeeN is holding quite firm for now.
Oh, and mate, here in comes that Raven transition. Despite the tanks, ByuN, his own tanks do get disabled. He still has 3 on the ramp though. A couple of auto targets are thrown down, but I don't know if this is really going to be the best trade. Regardless, it's just not enough to help protect said tanks.
Yeah, no, and that's it. That's the backbone that's been kind of taking a hit, and we see ByuN here with reinforcement with a lot of Marines. Those Marines probably could have actually held on to those tanks if they got there earlier, but KeeN taking a decisive fight at a decisive time. It looks like he is going to continue to be put under pressure by ByuN here, and needs to be careful with his own tanks, because if he loses those tanks, like his 4th base is just on his doorstep.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we can see that it's KeeN who's now starting to push out across the map. Like, he is the one with the momentum. He's the one with the mass Raven. He just continues to anti-armor missile everything, even a couple of disables as well. But KeeN just doesn't have the Marine count to break through.
Yeah, indeed. A Marine that has been what's it called? Shredded. Armor shredded order. It shoots just as much damage as a full health Marine. It just takes more damage, and overwhelming like numbers like so will always be enough to hold on. But we see here, as we look at the production tabs, like more Ravens coming out for KeeN. He feels comfortable knowing he's got air control. And ByuN could be in a bit of trouble here.
Yeah, ByuN taking a big risk because he doesn't have any of his Marines here. He is going straight for the hearts, straight for the production of KeeN. He intercepts all these reinforcements, gets 2 tanks for free, and now he can go straight into the main.
Wonderful move here by ByuN. Actually, he's going to push in, catches those Vikings popping, and KeeN's forced to turn tail and run, but tanks are so slow and clunky. Like, how can he deal with these Marines that are top of his production?
Exactly. Like, oh no, the Ravens get taken out as well. There are only a handful of Marines remaining here. The army is overstimmed, but you know what, mate? They have more than paid for themselves.
They have indeed, fully worth it. And not only did he force all those tanks back, but ByuN can take up the super forward position here too. And KeeN, this could be the moment of the game that turns us the Marines land back in the main again.
Oh my god, the Marines are not done. Meanwhile, KeeN is trying to reposition all his tanks, but he is heavily out of position. This planetary is under threat. We have mass Vikings well coming in from ByuN as well. He was able to reset all those Ravens from earlier. Now we only have 3 left here for KeeN, and I don't know if that's really going to be enough.
Yeah, no, I don't know indeed in these tanks, even though they're all together, they're kind of, looks like ByuN doesn't matter, he's just going to go straight in the main. Some Marines hit a hole, but with the extra tanks being dropped as well, this is a tricky position. Actually, KeeN may be able to hold this light, but there's just red everywhere over the base of
Land the Vikings! They will back off in the end. KeeN defends his main base, but at what cost, Chase?
Oh, the cost of my voice, I can't keep this up. As KeeN drops the mule hammer up top, and that's just TvT right. A lot of posturing, and one little mistake you can capitalize on. But both players, despite ByuN now being ahead, both players have been playing phenomenally so far.
Yeah, they really have. Honestly, I would say up until that one potentially game-winning move from ByuN, like, I think KeeN was trading better. Like, he was just taking so many good fights, especially with his tech superiority, but now that time has come and gone. Now ByuN is pushing on forward towards his 3rd base location. There are a couple of tanks in the back line, so ByuN can't just A-move everything, but again, like, slowly but surely, he's just gaining more ground.
Yes, is indeed, as KeeN's orbital here now out in threat. These tanks isolated, they're going to get Marines dropped on them actually, as the friendly fire takes out 1 tank, 2 tank, and Liberators now. It looks like ByuN's got the air control in this position. KeeN, he can't really back away. The 2 tanks on the right side isolated. Meanwhile, trying to get damage on this planet. That pairing of light, I think ByuN is more firmly such a strong position here now, and he's just not too far away from the production of KeeN.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this run by is nice from KeeN, but unfortunately, unlike ByuN's, it's not into the production. It's not into the heart of the bases of ByuN, so he can even afford to lose this base. Meanwhile, reinforcements, it looks like they're going to, for the most part, clean this up, and KeeN, he just keeps sending everything across that, but no, he runs into siege tanks!
Yeah, no, ByuN's kind of got the feel of the play here of KeeN. Sets up defensively, and KeeN, he can't afford to trade worse than ByuN. He's got worse economy. His army, despite being a reasonable size, is just it's mostly made up of Marines, really. Marines and a couple of tanks, and ByuN is going to come back, surround this force, and I think even though KeeN, he's still got a reasonable force, it's just looking more and more tough throughout. One of our South Korean turns.
Yeah, exactly. Like, KeeN has done a great job at just, you know, doing whatever he can to just pull pull ByuN apart, but he's down in bases, he's down in army, he's down in tanks, down in everything else. I feel like he has a decent standing army, don't get me wrong, but again, he has to be so careful with how he trades with it. Like, he cannot afford to replace it as easily as ByuN can.
You know, he can indeed. A couple of medevacs harassing here at the top base, but we see the thing about this map, lad, is the more you expand, the further you got to spread your tanks and forces apart, and well, ByuN is the player that's kind of spread more, but he's already got the advantage. He can afford to kind of put a stranglehold on KeeN, who's just trying to secure bases and somehow just, you know, trade reasonably enough, as we see a bit of a skirmish on this bottom side of the map. Thankfully, or luckily for ByuN, he does have the air advantage, and this Liberator going to force KeeN back.
Yeah, like, I want to believe that KeeN can still win a fight. Like, again, like, he's down in workers, so like KeeN would have to win a fight and then just go for it. But no, he can't afford to lose skirmishes like this. He's gonna lose the double drop. The Marines all go down, but KeeN does rotate towards the bottom right hand side of the map. It looks like he may be able to get a base, but he's also kind of cornering himself in a way.
Yeah, this is a little bit risky. Oh, actually, get on top of these tanks. Wonderful move by KeeN. Gets 4 of them. Wow. Gonna back up now, but I think that it's more reinforcements coming across for KeeN, and we could see, yeah, these units getting isolated, not too bueno, as this force now in the bottom right can get fully surrounded. How does it escape, lad?
It doesn't escape, but you know what? Maybe it doesn't need to, because in the blink of an eye, like, KeeN just killed like 6 tanks, which is not too bad at all. Like, the armies are still very comparable with each other.
They actually are, yeah. As we look, 15 SCVs going down from ByuN, and Ravens coming to support. Maybe they'll be the determining factor. Reasonable arc here for KeeN. His Marines are very weak. There's no medevacs, but ByuN's gonna be forced to push back like.
Yeah, mate, who needs medevacs? Just stim and win, baby. Let's go.
Hey, how weak those tanks are.
They're all so weak, but as long as they survive, they deal as much damage as a full health tank, so it doesn't even matter. He just took down 3 CCs. He's going to keep on going. This planetary may be a little bit exposed, but oh my god, now ByuN, he is getting prepared. He is already pre-sieging his tanks. No!
Oh yeah, 2 tanks being out of vision, so in range of those tanks there. A couple of Vikings coming. Meanwhile, there's no air support. There's a couple of bruised medevacs. As ByuN, he sees his force here. He's going to split off some tanks to hold the line and just counterattack. And what does KeeN have at home to deal with this attack like?
He's got 1 tank, he's got some Marines, he's got a decent amount of Ravens as well. He has to be careful. The sensor tower does scout the army of ByuN. He's going to try and rotate around and meet this, but he has to be careful. Oh, cannot afford to lose the Raven. Oof.
Oh yes, as we see a Shredder missile going off those Marines, weakening them up. And ByuN, what's he going to do? These forces kind of isolated, but it looks like he's going to back off, play it safe, because looking at the game now, like we've been saying, ByuN's been having the advantage. He still does have a bit of an advantage, but the worker count and the supply, it's actually starting to get closer and closer as KeeN. He's fighting back.
Mate, KeeN hasn't made an SCV in like the past 5 minutes, and ByuN has been losing workers. Like, there was a time where ByuN had like 75 to 40 SCVs, and now things are evening up. The Ravens are gonna come in. They do disable 2 of those tanks, but oh, there's just so much fire here. KeeN, he cannot find a way in. ByuN still has a massive supply lead.
Yeah, that's right. Pushing this triangular third, it's very tight choke there, as we see KeeN, he notices what the army is. He's going to move all the way around, actually. And can he going to hold this position, this choke here with these 3 tanks? 2 disables going off, catches 2 tanks here. And if he can hold the choke here, what does ByuN do? Is he just going to move across?
Oh my god, he does move across. He will lose 1 of his bases, so again, nice moves here by KeeN. But no, he has to be careful, and just like that, he loses 3 of his Ravens. Oh god.
Oh no, puppy. Oh yeah, boy, but it looks like these Vikings, very important allowing these tanks a bit more air support so Marines can't be dropped on, but ByuN's in a bit of a weird position here, like as KeeN, he's coming from behind, and he's now got tanks set up on the high ground here.
True, KeeN has the high ground. Is that going to be enough though? Because look at the sheer amount of Marines, mate. ByuN may not even care. Like, it's possible for him, especially because there's only 2 tanks. He can just stim and just dive on the army.
Yeah, these Marines from KeeN, they're very beat up and bruised, and despite everything going on, as you said, KeeN hasn't been making work as he can't really sustain losing this army, and as we see those tanks get caught, and these Marines, what are they going to do? They're going to buy time for the Raven, but they can't shoot up. They can shoot up, not fast enough. As KeeN is now on the back foot, like.
Yeah, KeeN, he is knocked down to 1 mining base. This is kind of, well, this is like half a mining base. He is out of money. He is broke. He has no gas income. What you see is what you get for KeeN, and it's been very impressive, like how he's been able to trade and fight back. But like even floating his main over, like there's nothing, there's nothing here. Oh god, KeeN, please.
Yeah, that's a bit sad, but KeeN does have a sturdy tank count. But the thing is, if you have a sturdy tank count, you're gonna have barely any anti-air, especially with losing those Ravens and ByuN. Even though his economy is not all that much more solid than KeeN's, he does have, a more diversified, varied army. He's got 8 Vikings, a Liberator, just a cheeky libs, 16 tanks, and 60 Marines. And I think that when it comes to time for a decisive fight, this tank line, the backbone of KeeN is great, but the Marines won't be able to hold the line long enough to do the damage.
It's all about positioning. Like maybe if KeeN sieges first, and if he's able to get like 1 really good volley off, or maybe even 2 volleys, then KeeN can take a fight. But like I had the advantages that he had earlier, like it was the Ravens. Like Ravens changed everything. Like if at any moment ByuN tried to push on forward, and we saw anti-armor missiles going off, then KeeN could defend despite having a lower army supply. Meanwhile, KeeN just loses another round of tanks. Ay. Not like this, KeeN. Not like this.
Yeah, and these are tanks you can't replace either. Like, we see the advantage of ByuN. When you have more tanks, when you both split it in half, it's just decisive. It's this mining base. It's going to get gunned down by these 3-3 Marines. And KeeN, what does he do from here? He's got a mining base at the very top, but it's not only is it half mined out, he's just super isolated and can't defend it, as these tanks are going to push in and siege it.
Exactly. The tanks are here. This is the real last mining base of KeeN, and it's going to go down. ByuN, he got his own fresh base up and running. Kind of fresh. As fresh as it can be, and there's just the income is essentially 0 here for KeeN.
Yeah, it is indeed, as we see Marines being dropped on top of these tanks. Vikings still shooting away, they will get chased down. KeeN does manage, he does have a reasonable take line, but the production tab kind of tells the story. Like, as we see, these 2 Marines can be forced back as ByuN. It's just a numbers game at this point, and KeeN's going to try and secure this base, but without air control, it's not an easy task.
Yeah, it's really not. I mean, ByuN is going to help him out by throwing away a couple of Vikings, but there's still more than enough in the sky. Again, ByuN just has so much supply to work with that he can have 2 standing armies, just denying base left and right. KeeN is struggling to really hold on. Oh, Liberator even coming in from behind, hitting those mineral patches. Ay.
That's right, and KeeN calls GG and light. ByuN takes a very exciting game number 1.
Damn.
What a game to start the series. This is only game number 1 as well.
That was honestly a really close game. Like there were moments for both players. Despite ByuN getting a really big advantage in the mid game, KeeN clawed his way back to actually make it close. But just barely wasn't enough to even things up in the end. And it was an uphill battle for KeeN for a very long time.
Yeah, indeed. And we have to say, as you said, it was an uphill battle for KeeN, but he went toe to toe. He was even outplaying ByuN in a couple areas that game, working with less tools. Maybe if KeeN does have the equal amount of tools that ByuN has, he'll be able to kind of go toe to toe with ByuN, but it's just a matter of getting to that stage in the mid to late game, being on an equal footing where he can kind of flourish and show that despite probably not being the favorite against ByuN, he can take him out.
There you go. Oh god. And Yeah, because of that, and especially because of the way that we saw game one transpire. Like, I still believe that KeeN can make the reverse sweep happen. Like, it's gonna be a tough road for him. He's down 1-0 in this series, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if we do see an ace match here.
I think it's certainly possible. I hope we see one, to be fair, because these players always enjoy to cast. Chance is going to chill in the finals by himself for now. But we're going to go into Hardwire Ladder Edition.
Oh boy. Here we go, mate. We're diving in. It's game 2.
It's game 2 indeed. I'm glad you can count. Spawning in the bottom, so the top right. I can't count.
Oh boy.
There's a red Terran player representing Rebellion, also representing the land of South Korea. It is the one, the only. Give it up for ByuN.
And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Hardwire LE, we have the South Korean Terran player representing Kwangdong Freaks. It is KeeN. Oh my god. Let's go!
Well, something was up when I saw no SCV building, but yes, it's going to be a proxy 2-ax, and like, based off this position, I have a very strong inkling that we're going to be seeing Reapers.
Oh yeah, boy, let's go. Reapers are going to be on the horizon. ByuN may get ByuN'd here. Again, known for his Reaper control back in the day. So far, he hasn't gone for an SCV scout, not yet, so at the moment, he is a little bit in the dark as to what is going on.
Yeah, no, he is indeed. Sometimes these pro players will make little, cut the little adjustments just so they can get that timing just that extra bit faster. In this case, it could definitely cost ByuN, as we see KeeN. The reason for the proxy here is he can just jump up on the high ledge. Normally, if they get scouted, they just send 1 Reaper in. If they don't get scouted, they wait for 2. But it looks like KeeN might even just send it in straight away. But ByuN, he's rallying his Reaper to the high ground.
that he is. We'll see how he's able to respond to this, as he even, oh my god, he even makes a CC on the high ground as well. Like, despite not scouting anything, he's kind of read this in a really smart way. Oh my god.
Yeah, or it could be that he's playing quite safe considering he hasn't gone for that SCV scout. And here we go, the Reaper is going to come in, ByuN's going to jump down, he's going to see a barrier, he's going to jump all the way back up there, he's not sticking around, but he does hold that high ground, pulling some SCVs as well, just under 1 gas reminder. And he's going to have his tech slightly delayed by building another Reaper too, but he wants to hold that high ground. But
yeah, and oh my god, he was a little bit bamboozled there. The Reapers do come in from the left, not the right. Oh my god, almost getting surrounded. Has to be so careful, have to respect the SCVs.
Yeah, and if ByuN gets a Reaper here, that'll be huge, but he manages to save it, and just going to want to back off now, does not want to lose any of those Reapers. As long as he keeps all Reapers alive, he can continue to put the pressure on here. When the Hellion pops out, there should be 5 Reapers or so, and that might be the time to go, but KeeN, he's dropping a bunker, mate. Look at this.
I love it. He's starting to transition. Factory is up at home. This bunker will make it so much more annoying for the CC to finish. He dips in. Can he deny it? Oh, he delays it.
Oh, he does delay it indeed. But there we go, and KeeN, he's going to feel a little bit freer. Does see the Hellion now, not going to get caught out of position, and while this pressure's going on, while he's still building Reapers, ByuN's forced to kind of make units himself. He can't really drop a tech lab or drop a reactor at all, and with the added bunker, with no tech lab, I think this is a really smart move here by KeeN.
Yeah. We'll see how he's gonna be able to, or how long it takes for ByuN to finally establish the low ground and actually get his natural up and running, because KeeN, his own CC, is on location, still on the way though, still very late in comparison.
Yeah, for sure. Another cool thing I like about this bunker is it allows KeeN to see if ByuN moves down to work at it, and then he can just like backstab and go through the back door. This Marine is waiting, but as you said, KeeN, he's building on location, but is a lot later. ByuN has been building SCVs a bit longer than KeeN, but the saturation is not. There's actually no advantage at the moment. Maybe the mule will be a bit of an advantage, but until ByuN can get that base to land, KeeN's on even footing economically wise.
Yeah, like things are still very manageable here for KeeN. So even though the double proxy racks didn't end the game, like KeeN is transitioning quite nicely. Oh my god, he even gets the depot.
Oh, the depot does get indeed and light. As we see, you know, ByuN, he's felt comfortable now to drop those the add-ons, but there's still that's a lot of Reapers now, and he's kind of missed out on a Reaper and a Hellion building these add-ons. He gets supply blocked by losing the depot light.
Aye. Meanwhile, I just have to point something out because I'm shocked by the Reaper count as well. Looking at the units lost, KeeN hasn't lost a single Reaper. His control has been so on point. He's been so conservative with how he handles his units, and because of that's why like this force is so intimidating, and that's why ByuN is having such a hard time actually landing his CC.
Exactly, and look at the way he's utilizing his bunker light. If the Cyclone locks onto a Reaper, he just puts it in the bunker, and now if the Banshee, he can probably end this onslaught, this pressure, but ByuN looks like he wants to go across the map instead and try and get some damage done. And is this the right move? Like, because we see KeeN, he's moving out with some Cyclones.
Let's go, Cyclone drop into the main base. Meanwhile, it looks like ByuN will finally gain control of his own natural base. With the help of this tank, the bunker goes down, CC has landed, but you know what? KeeN has been mining for a little bit longer, so economically, KeeN may be behind in workers, but he's been mining a little bit more efficiently instead. So again, things kind of evening up when it comes to the economy. Meanwhile, that drop, it's sneaking its way in.
It is too, and on the other side, the Banshee is also sneaking its way in, so we're going to have a bit of crisis go on here. KeeN, he's going to get a Cyclone position, so smart, calculating that. Will he scan to get this Banshee? No, he does not quite, but meanwhile, with the Reapers jumping up and the Cyclones coming the main, ByuN, these Marines are isolated.
Yeah, exactly. You know what, mate? Stim is not there, so the Marines, honestly, they aren't that great. They're head on engagement. It looks like there is more than enough here, though, for ByuN to defend. Oh, the mines go off, though.
Yeah, no, I feel like the mines were thrown down late by KeeN, and he is going to eventually get away. I like this. That was almost so clutch, but yeah. And the Banshee ByuN gets back as well, and as we see now, the deficit, ByuN has almost double the army supply of KeeN. He's got his base secured. He's either going to move out, or he's just going to, as we see, 2 engineering base down, 3rd base finished, secure his own 3rd.
Yeah, I guess that's the plan here. After such an intense early game, KeeN at least is looking ahead, you know. Oh, and he does get scanned. The NG bays aren't spotted here by ByuN, but again, the 3rd CC is enough of a tell to be like, okay, you're not like two base all inning me. You are thinking ahead. You are looking to get into the mid game, and so am I.
He is indeed, and ByuN, I guess, you know, this was the plan. He's building the 3rd before KeeN kind of sacked, or I don't want to say sacked, they kind of lost that engagement with the Reapers, the fragile units. And so why not, you know, why deviate away from that plan when you can just continue doing it at like a safer, more comfortable rate? Reaper going to get picked off from ByuN at the middle of the map. KeeN going to do a bit of scouting. But we have a bit of movement coming on both sides. At the top left we've got Ravens, the bottom right we've got Banshees. Like, ByuN looks like he's going to secure back at home the 3rd and put some pressure on KeeN, who is building. He's got his 3rd base finished as well, actually on location before ByuN.
Yeah, KeeN a little bit more on top of expanding, or at least getting his bases up and running. But as you pointed out, he has to be a little bit careful here because, again, there's going to be a lot of multi-pronged aggression from the side of ByuN. KeeN is aware of that, though. His Mrs. Hart is already on the way here at the natural, but just a couple seconds too late as the Banshee slips by.
Yeah, it does. The one thing it will do is help kind of cut off that retreat avenue, but KeeN's actually moving out, and this could make this Banshee a bit annoying. 3 Marines coming back to push this. They don't have Stim yet, and there's actually a lot of losses for KeeN so far.
Yeah, there really are, but KeeN is undeterred. Meanwhile, the Ravens actually end up using a little bit of their energy here across the map, and this is dangerous. The Ravens are not at home to defend, and I'm a little bit scared. I'm a little bit concerned for ByuN.
Yeah, I think that with the tank count, ByuN, he should be okay unless KeeN gets a bit of a weird angle here, maybe hitting the SUVs right on the edge. But with the Vikings, I think, yeah, he's going to have to move back. 9 SUVs, 10 SUVs going down, so much damage done by ByuN. Harassment 11. Oh my god! Let's look at the worker count now. Like, this is not the position KeeN wants to find himself in.
It really isn't. I was really worried for ByuN, but ByuN knew better. He's like, nah, I don't need Ravens at home to defend. I'm good, mate. I've got tanks, I've got Vikings to zone out my opponent's Raven. Like, I'm perfectly fine, and I gotta just believe in ByuN a little bit more. Meanwhile, the Ravens are not done. They go into the main base. Even more auto targets are thrown down, and somehow, some way, that Raven survives.
They do indeed, and they've kind of gone past the point of no return actually, because there should be Vikings coming to kind of move, like clear these units out. But actually, KeeN's not making any Vikings, and he's only got one Raven in the skies. It looks like he wants to just kind of, you know, spread out on the ground here. But look at the supply difference now. Like ByuN, he just needs to chill and hold as he builds a fourth base, you know, in his main. So he's feeling pretty comfortable indeed.
Yeah, like game 1 was so close and so dynamic and so back and forth. Here in game 2, ByuN is just dominating. Like, it's insane. Just like we saw, the fourth base has been delayed. We've seen workers fall left and right. We see KeeN trying to respond by counterattacking, but every single time ByuN is ready and waiting and just deflects it as if it's nothing. Oh, but maybe there's an opportunity here for oh, no, never mind. I was like, oh, maybe KeeN will catch some drops.
I'm biased, by the way. But no, we just want to see that. You know, the first game was so exciting. The opener was very exciting by KeeN as well. ByuN is showing why he is a top player still in the current season of GSL, as he has his 2-2 on the way. If we have a look at KeeN, he's also got 2-2, just slightly behind. Nothing too major really, but I feel like ByuN, I'm not used to him just kind of chillaxing like this. I'm used to him dropping, but given the current circumstances, he doesn't really need to risk like setting out drops and so forth. He's already ahead.
He really is. He just has to take things a little bit slow, doesn't want to throw away his lead. He's respecting KeeN's defensive position, which, you know, is understandable, right? He's got tanks, he's got sensor towers as well to kind of spot whenever ByuN decides to move out. And ByuN, he's just kind of chilling and waiting to max out and maybe hit a timing with 2-2.
He is indeed, as we see, one of the few ways I guess ByuN could probably, I don't want to say few ways he could lose this game, but one of the ways he can lose is a Doom drop through this right channel where these Vikings are patrolling. But yeah, ByuN being active on the map, keeping tabs on where his opponent is. This Raven gonna get even more kills, 7 workers going down, and oh, this is brutal for KeeN. He's finally got Vikings out to clean it up. Low health Raven, but it's got 14 kills, and most of those are SUVs. That's a Raven that's paid for itself.
100%, mate. 100%. Meanwhile, you wanted drops, mate. ByuN, he's got you with some drops. We got double drop. Looking to go into the main base. Has to be careful because the Vikings are here in position at the same time. The main army of ByuN is sharking around, looking to try and find a position. Could even pull away those Vikings, but oh my god!
Yeah, he does boost. We'll lose one medevac full of Marines. That's about 10 supply. Gaunch, but for ByuN, it's no problem. He is macroing like a machine. We'd like to see him add maybe a couple extra barracks. Now that's yeah, there we go. Oh, I'm so smart. I'm so cracked. We see the skirmish in the middle of the map. These Marines are going to want to get home, and they spot that tank count at light. This is scary for KeeN.
It's terrifying, mate. He has to reposition. He brings his Vikings over. Thankfully, he already dealt with one of those drops, so he doesn't have to worry too much about another drop going into his main base, despite ByuN having it ready just in case. So we'll see if that comes into play later on. ByuN trying to find a way, and so far, KeeN doing a really good job at keeping up with the army movement of ByuN, but there is that drop that we were talking about.
Yeah, it is indeed. It looks like there is a Viking on a spot that drop. Meanwhile, ByuN may be overextending very slightly with this tank. He does have air control, but actually, no, not at all. He's going to grab one of the tanks of KeeN, but we see Marines now in the main. We'll get cleaned up by KeeN eventually, but this is a lot of pressure that our KeeN is being put under right now.
Yeah, it really is. Meanwhile, with that air superiority, ByuN, he goes for a little bit of a cheeky drop, but he is denied just like that. ByuN, he's trying to break the defenses of KeeN, but so far, KeeN, he is holding very strong.
He does, just like ByuN on the other side. KeeN is very solid. These Marines going to come in, going to get one tank and back away. Reasonable trade, probably not, you know, the greatest trade, but anytime you trade minerals for tanks, that's definitely worth it. Meanwhile, we now see ByuN adding in some starports as well, so it looks like we're going to see, as he adds these orbitals too, the extra command centers, he's going to be going for the transition, maybe more working on that air superiority. Meanwhile, KeeN, he's doing better, but like he's still at a bit of a disadvantage.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he does have a higher tank count here. Oh, even gets an anti-armor missile off on the tanks of ByuN, which is questionable, I should say, as ByuN actually goes for a little bit of a drop here on the left-hand side. We'll catch a couple of tanks, but again, KeeN defends.
Yeah, he does indeed, actually, and both players are going to be trading out there on Viking count. And I feel like this isn't the worst thing for ByuN because he's adding in those extra starports. A trade that probably not great, but something that with his superior economy he can take advantage of. Meanwhile, KeeN, he'll probably feel a little bit more comfortable. Probably, actually no, because his tanks were exposed. Like, oh, he falls back. But check out the top left side of the map. KeeN finally feels comfortable enough to move
Yeah.
out himself.
I think like ByuN second guessed himself there with that drop, and I don't think he should have. Like there were literally only two Marines to defend. Like 100% these tanks were exposed, and ByuN could have exploited that, but he backs off instead, and this gives KeeN an opportunity to actually get away with this drop.
Yeah, it does. He's actually going to find these starports, realizes the intentions of ByuN, and there's a tank and a planetary, and with this drop as well, it looks like KeeN's going to be forced back immediately. Wonderful defense there by ByuN.
Wow. Fun fact, that double drop that came back was actually the one that was going to land on these tanks. So they were put to good use regardless. They were able to get some value anyway. Meanwhile, on the front lines, ByuN is still having a hard time breaking through and finding any ground. KeeN actually catching a couple of undefended tanks.
Does indeed, and ByuN's going to unsiege behind the smoke wall. Going to leave one tank, just kind of, I guess, to cover the retreat, but no, he's just going to siege up, reposture a bit. And it looks like with these reinforcing units coming across the map, if ByuN can hold this position until they arrive, I think he could really put the pressure on this base here that's just finished up for KeeN.
Yeah, and we'll see if ByuN's army composition is going to work out here, because I don't know if you noticed, but after ByuN lost all his Vikings, he hasn't remade any Vikings. He's trying to get into Ravens, but he doesn't have any ready yet for this big fight. He's just pure tank and pure Marine. Oh, and KeeN notices how defenseless these tanks are.
Oh, notice indeed as he drops the Marines, it's raining men literally as this tank like is taken out. He's going to siege up on the right hand side, but he's going to lose a lot of tanks there. Very worthwhile for KeeN despite losing a medevac, as we see. Now these tanks on the right are a little bit exposed as well, but there's no Marines to capitalize. And wow, just look at that tank count for KeeN. He's actually got 16 tanks to ByuN's 9. Like.
Yeah, and ByuN, he just lost a massive chunk of those tanks. Meanwhile, KeeN has the air superiority with the Vikings as well as these Ravens. ByuN has to respect that. He will end up backing off, and he is going to try and make up for that with his own Raven count.
That he will indeed, as we see Ravens. If you fall behind in the tank count, you know, there's other ways to kind of get back into the game. More kind of, I guess, easier ways. I'm just controlling the skies, nullifying that tank advantage unless it's overwhelming. But yeah, we see, despite having a couple Ravens coming for ByuN, KeeN's already got 6 as well, and Vikings himself, and Light, I don't know about. Oh, these tanks! I was about to say, I don't know about you, but KeeN's in a good spot. Maybe I didn't say that.
KeeN has to be so careful here. He ends up losing one tank there for free. Center Tower gets taken out as well, as ByuN was able to find a couple of exposed areas here of his opponent. But again, I don't see a world where he can really just stim on forward just because of all these Ravens. Like anti-armor missiles, disables as well. Like KeeN just has so much to work with.
Yeah, actually catching these tanks on siege, and he's going to pull back 2 of them safely, sieging in the high ground. But these Ravens, can they pull off their disables? No, but I think that ByuN, you know, he had a bit of an advantage, kind of pushing forward. He had more land, but KeeN now is putting that pressure on ByuN, and this is starting to look. We got a game on our hands.
Oh yeah. We got a game on our hands. Both players maxed out. KeeN was able to come back from all that early aggression early on with his impeccable defense, just continuing to rotate and keep up with ByuN for the past like 7 or so minutes. And yeah, just like that, like KeeN, he's fighting back. The disables are insane. More tanks are gonna get caught out.
They will indeed. These tanks are disable. They come up on siege, and KeeN, actually, ByuN, he's got quite a few units here. There are a lot more Vikings in the skies, but I think that maybe KeeN might have done a bit of a small overextension here, but checking out the supply, pretty even trades all around.
Yeah, KeeN did lose a little bit more than he really should have there. Was a little bit careless with his army, and now the dynamic is going to be a little bit different. We have very similar Raven counts. KeeN does have a slight Raven advantage, but something that is significant is that ByuN has more than double the Viking count right now.
Yeah, he does indeed, and even though KeeN has a couple more Ravens, you know, when you have this many Vikings, it's so hard to get forward and kind of drop those disables, as we see. Yep, KeeN's not even going to contest, he's just going to be bullied away here as ByuN. Despite having a bit of a smaller tank count, he's got the skies, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Just time and time again, he just picks off Raven after Raven. This massive Viking count is insane, and there we go. KeeN finally recognizes it. He's going to be making or trying to replace the Vikings that he's already lost. And again, he's going to need a little bit more time to get that Viking count up and running so then he can start pushing out again.
Yeah, indeed. As we see now, this is where it looks like a lot of action, but the problem is trying to secure this base for KeeN. That ByuN is the high ground, and he's got that. Literally has the high ground too at the air control, but Light is a bit of extension from ByuN here.
Is it maybe? Because again, he takes down even more of those Ravens. He did throw away a couple of tanks, but he traded so much better there. 4 tanks just went down. Another Raven went down as well. Like, this Viking count for ByuN has really paid for itself, and he's just been able to maintain it.
Yeah, it has indeed. And as you see, that city's coming to repair, even though ByuN's Ravens are also weak. He's able to just heal them back up to full health again, as his Marine's going to get on top of this planetary before it finishes morphing, and ByuN's going to come back and finish off these units, but 13th city is going down for ByuN. Slight worker lead to KeeN now, and it looks like we've got action on each side of the map, and we have a lot of sensor towers and scans as well.
God, the minimap is so messy. there's so much going on with scans and sensor towers and red and blue dots all over the place. Ay. Meanwhile, ByuN does get revealed. KeeN, he's going to be rotating the majority of his army over here to try and make sure he keeps his army in check of ByuN.
It's like, you know, when you're like 5 years old and you take like a can or a bottle and you put it on a bit of paper and just like trace a circle around it. It's like someone's done that and there's just circles everywhere. But yeah, I think KeeN is going to be opening up these avenues. Normally, you know, in TvT, chokes kind of reign supreme. You're going to be defensive, but this, you know, your opponent kind of set up behind the choke and then kind of push you from there. So it makes sense. KeeN's opening up these avenues so he doesn't get any strangleholds. But ByuN, if you look at his forces, he's kind of got units like pretty much all the way across, as we see. I feel like, look, if this game goes much longer, like these 2 bases on the left-hand side could be decisive.
Yeah, and ByuN, he left his army idle here in the middle of the map, and KeeN took advantage of it. He does take this position here on the right-hand side, does take down 2 of those tanks, but at the same time, ByuN, he moves through the center.
Yeah, that's it, and this is a bit risky from ByuN because he can get collapsed on by multiple angles, but in the same space, he's so close, and he's got a decent Raven Viking count that we mentioned before, and
yeah, exactly. Both air armies do get Dorito dusted here, but ByuN is able to rotate around, but at the same time, we still have tanks left over here to defend, and KeeN, he's coming back in.
And he is. A bunch of turrets being dropped too, covering for the Marines. Half the tanks get disabled, and like, this is a brilliant engagement from KeeN. He's just cleaned this up exactly as we see the supply drop for ByuN. He's you know, he's knocked up his production tab, but he's still down quite a bit as these tanks getting the base on the right hand side. And I think like KeeN, I think he's starting to bring it back.
Yeah, just like that. Like, as you were saying, ByuN really exposed himself, pushing through the center, just allowing himself to be surrounded. He put himself in that position. I'm sure he was hoping that maybe KeeN had a little bit more invested on the right-hand side, but there were like, wait, what, 3 or 4 tanks left here, and he didn't just get the base, he took the fight as well, and now KeeN has so much momentum.
Yeah, he does indeed, as his turrets are forced to be dropped by ByuN, and they're not going to last too much longer. There's no energy for these Ravens as KeeN. He just needs to kind of sell and he can secure this base and then focus on the left-hand side after he fortifies this right-hand side.
Yeah, exactly, and something that was a little bit overlooked by us, because we've been paying a lot of attention of the when it comes to the army compositions, even though the armies are very similar to each other when it comes to Viking count and Raven count, KeeN has the much superior upgrades here, as he just hasn't been like letting down on those vehicle upgrades and really affecting the way that his Vikings were able to just take control of the skies.
Yeah, indeed. As we get later in the stages, you know, man becomes obsolete, machine becomes all dominant, as we see an engagement going on. Much better air Viking control, so Viking count here for ByuN, but despite that, KeeN just has superior forces on that ground. I think that even though it's a relatively even trade, KeeN, he's just remaxing so much faster now.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that, but KeeN miscontrolled his Ravens hard there. It looked like he dove all his Ravens in and he wanted to blanket the ground with auto turrets, but like there was just so much like units in the area that he couldn't quite do it, so he threw down like 3 or 4 and that's it, and then just every single Raven died just like that. Like, oh my god.
It feels bad, man. But yeah, Ravens kind of every air unit, you know, every air you lose, you have to replace. It puts you further behind. as we see another engagement going on here, and ByuN, this is quite a powerful kind of position. He's got himself wedged in here.
Yeah, exactly. After that massive big fight, finally he can break on through as well. KeeN has been able to take more bases, but again, it still does come down to these army engagements and the positioning, and ByuN looks like he's going to be able to take out the planetary.
Yeah, and he will, and it looks like ByuN's move, he's making 4 Vikings at a time, but KeeN's making 6 at a time. Now finding a tender underbelly part of ByuN's fortress here as he pushes these Marines, going to be forced back to these tanks, and Light, I think that these 2 tanks get caught reinforcing. No, he's going to be able to keep them alive.
Yeah, the tanks survive. Meanwhile, ByuN, he took out 1 planetary. He's not done. He's not happy. He wants another, and he will get that 2nd planetary at the bottom right.
He will, and ByuN, even though he's kind of, if you look at the position on the minimap, he's taking out both these bases, but he's allowed himself to get surrounded again. And now, how does he get out of this position? His air units are faltering away, and despite pumping out reinforcements as fast as he can, this is a large bulk of tanks that can get fully surrounded.
Yeah, like ByuN has to get over here. He has to come and save these tanks before it's too late. He was able to take out the majority of the Ravens and the Vikings, but oh my god, reinforcements coming in for KeeN, and all he has to do is just land Vikings on top of this, and the friendly fire is going to be insane.
Yeah, and this is clever from ByuN. He knows that KeeN's probably posturing to kind of surround these units here. He's going to push down the middle, but air support coming in, and actually KeeN, where's the rest of his Vikings, his forces? They're just non-existent as these tanks. I think now they're going to siege up yet another base.
Yeah, the tanks, they want some more. ByuN just doesn't stop. Meanwhile, he catches a couple more tanks. KeeN is going to try and defend. All of his bio is busy here defending his tanks when he's going to lose a 3rd planetary.
And now it's starting taking effect on KeeN. He's losing 3 bases now, even 4. It's not just the 3, and KeeN's got a lot of tanks up above, and he's actually pushing towards ByuN's triangle 3rd. But these tanks are just a thorn in his side, and he can kind of leave them there for as long as he wants, but eventually he's going to need to kind of deal with them back here. Yeah. And these tanks aren't even sieged up above the ByuN's tanks.
Oh god, they're not made, as all of this entire army of KeeN is gonna get cleaned up. ByuN, he's gonna keep on going as well. He can't stop, he won't stop. Finally, the tanks are gonna be disabled here, but is there enough on the ground to clean them up? It looks like there isn't.
I don't think there is. Not only that, but there's enough in the skies to deal with the small force that ByuN has, and KeeN calls GG as ByuN makes the comeback and takes game number 2. Wow.
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 GG, well played. Oh god, KeeN, he almost brought it back once again. Like, he was playing so well, and like especially that moment where he was able to win a decisive battle in the middle of the map and also take out a planetary on the right. I was like, yo, let's go. But and we thought he was gonna be able to clean up all those tanks as well, but it didn't quite turn out that way for him. He was focusing a lot more on counterattacks instead. I think he also didn't take it too seriously to begin with. He's like, I'm taking ByuN's base towards the north. It's fine. Like, I can afford to lose a planetary. Don't worry about it. But he had to worry about it.
He had to indeed, yeah, Light, and eventually, he could kind of put it off, but once ByuN kind of reinforced those tanks with the Vikings and Ravens, it would have been fine if you had superior numbers being pumped out, but he just could not deal with the Raven count that ByuN had, and in the end, it just the staying power of that tank force, getting 3 bases in this kind of such a this game where it's a bit of a split map, it wasn't enough, and KeeN unfortunately bows out to the Terran King, who will take on Chance in our grand final.
Yeah, GG, well played. Congratulations to ByuN. He makes it through to the grand finals. It wasn't an easy road though. Like let's be honest, this was a great series. It was very, very close. Despite the 2-0, both games could have gone KeeN's way. There's an alternate world out there where KeeN is the one to 2-0 ByuN. But that is not this world. ByuN comes out on top just barely, and yeah, wow, what a series.
What a series indeed. Also, just a reminder for anyone in the chat, if you would like these replays, they come in replay packs. If you support the Cranky Ducklings on Patreon, from as little as $1, on Patreon, you get a cool little Cranky badge. You will be able to keep these, lock them away on a USB stick for generations to come. at least until Blizzard patches the game next, which probably, to be fair, is generations to come away. but but no, yeah, that was an exciting series, and it's a shame it's over, but it's yeah, I'm glad to be here. Smile because it happened, like not because it's over.
Oh god. Exactly. And you know what? There are other things to smile about, because after finishing this series, after finishing the semifinals, before we move on to the grand finals, mate, it's that time of the tournament.